going to look at Modim, which is the 18th bracha, and we're almost at the end of the Amidah, and actually today we're going to see the ways in which Modim probably at some point was the end of the Amidah, and it's helpful to think about it in that way, because in that way it sort of is the culmination of the Amidah, and it is sort of the mirror image of the start of the Amidah when we started with Avot, with that first bracha that we looked at together back in July. So we're going to see the opportunities to understand this bracha, both on its own linguistic terms, but also in its position in the Amidah as the really the end of the Amidah itself, and the high point and climax of where we're going. Modim anachnu lach. Now, how do you translate modim? We're going to get into. For just to confuse everybody, I brought in 4 different translations. We thank, we acknowledge, we praise, or we bow to you, or maybe all of the above. Modim anachnu lach. And then, in the way that we say this bracha now, there is the letter sha, sha'ata, she'ata, that you are Adonai, our God. But actually, in all old versions of this bracha, it was Atahu Adonai Eloheinu. There was no connecting word. So it's possible that the first sentence is simply Modim anachnu lach. We are whatever. We thank you. Let's translate it for now. Period. And then we start off with a sort of description of God, Atahu Adonai Eloheinu. Or you could read it as, we are thankful that you are Adonai Eloheinu. Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu. That's an image that, or a phrasing that may be familiar from the beginning of the Amidah. Olam va'ed, forever and all time. Sur chayenu, magen yishenu. Now we get some descriptions of God. Rock of our lives, shield of our salvation. Magen, again, is a word that we remember way back from Magen Abraham. Atahu l'dor bador. That is you from generation to generation. Now we get a specific list of things that we are modim about. Nodelecha, it's almost like we're starting again. Nodelecha, we're going to thank, acknowledge, praise, perhaps bow to you. Unisaperti latecha, and tell of your praise. What are the things that we're going to be thankful for? Al chayenu hamasrim biyadecha, for our lives that are given to your hand. Val nishmotenu apdulach, and our souls that are placed in your charge. Val nisecha, and for your miracles, or in some commentators, your trials, like Elohim Nisad Abraham, but probably more simply, your miracles that are with us each and every day. Val niflotecha v'tovotecha shebechol eit, erev avoker v'tzoraim. And on your wonders and your goodnesses at all times, evening and morning and afternoon. So that's all. Those are the things that we're thankful to God about. And then we're going to get sort of the end of this bracha, Hatov, calling God the good, for your mercies have not ended, Kilo chalu rachamecha, V'amrachem, and the merciful, Kilo tamu chasadecha, for your loving kindness has not stopped, like Gomel chasadim tovim from the first bracha. Me'olam kivinu lach, forever we hope for you. Ve'al kulam yiparach v'yitzram shimcha malkeinu tamid olam va'ed. And on all this, or for all this, may your name be blessed and exalted, our King always and forever and for all time. B'chol ha'chaim yoducha sela, and may all the living thank you, sela, a word that's hard to translate. V'yalalu et shimcha b'emet, may they praise your name in truth. Ha'el yeshuatenu ve'ezratenu sela, the God, our Savior and our help, sela again. Baruch atah Hashem, hatov shimcha u'lecha el hodot. Blessed are you, Adonai. The good is your name, hatov shimcha, and to you it is pleasant to thank, acknowledge, praise, vow, whatever modim means. Okay, so that's our long bracha that we're going to see here. And not only is it long, but there are a variety of different traditions in reciting this bracha, including a separate set of traditions that you recite when the leader repeats the Amidah, which is called Modim de Rabbanan, and the Modim prayer of the rabbis. And that's something that we may also have the occasion to look at. But there's a long prayer. There's a variety of different versions of this prayer, and we're going to try to sort of unpack it throughout the week. Now, what I want to look at today is the way in which this is a very significant prayer, not only because of its content, but because of its placement. One headline for that is this midrash from Rabbi Pinchas and Rabbi Levi and Rabbi Yochanan, said in the name of Rabbi Menachem de Galia, Rabbi Menachem of Gaul. In the future, Latid Lavo, all sacrifices will be canceled. Kol hakorbanot b'telin. Korban Todah eino batel. But the Todah sacrifice will not be canceled. Kol hatefilot b'telot, and all the prayers, or perhaps all the Amidot, will be canceled. Hoda'ah eina b'telah. But the Modim, or the thanking prayer, or the acknowledging prayer, will not be canceled. So there's something eternal about this bracha. Even as the rest of the Amidah may fall away, this will last forever. And we also see its comparison to the Todah sacrifice. Not only is the tefillah in general compared to sacrifice or corresponding to sacrifice, but this one in specific is corresponding to the Todah sacrifice. And that's something that is also eternal, and we're going to have to look at that connection. But the headline here is that there's something eternal and everlasting about Modim. It's very, very significant. Let's take a look at how it mirrors the beginning of the Amidah. We have this instruction about bowing in the Amidah, which reads as follows: Elu brachot sheshochin bahem. These are the brachot, the blessings in the Amidah that you should bow. Bracha rishona tchila basof. Right, the first bracha at the beginning and the end. That's what we do in the Magen Avraham bracha. We bow at the beginning, Baruch Atah Hashem, and then Baruch Atah Hashem at the end. And then you would expect it to be and bracha achrona tchila basof, but instead it says modim tchila basof. And in our bracha, modim, we bow at the beginning and the end, which just raises an eyebrow. If it's not the last bracha, how come we're bowing in the second to last bracha? Why is it mirrored but not exactly mirrored? And again, I'm trying to build up some evidence here that Modim was at some point considered to be the end of the Amidah, and therefore sort of mirrors in importance the beginning of the Amidah and may reflect aspects of the beginning of the Amidah. Let's take another look at another piece of evidence here from Midrash Tanaim. This is the Midrashim that were theorized to be one of the oldest set of Midrashim on the Torah on Devarim. You'll find that with the 18 blessings, the Shmona Asrei Brachot, that the sages and the prophets established, they didn't want to ask for the needs of Israel first. Rather, they opened with the praise of God. Okay, this is something that we're going to see in other contexts, which is there's a structure to the Amidah that you open with praise, then you make your request, then you finish with something, oftentimes understood as thanks. That's what we're looking at. So you open with praise, and then it gives the line of the first bracha, going through Elohei Yaakov. And in the second blessing, he says, Mechayem Metim. And in the third blessing, he says, Kedushat Hashem, the holiness of the name. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And after that, he says, and this does not appear in our Amidah, so it's sort of interesting historically, but you have the Geula theme. Go'aleinu Adonai Eloheinu Geula Shlema Lefanecha. Redeem us, Adonai, our God, a full redemption before you. That's apparently the request that we proceeded with the praise. And then here's what's relevant to our bracha, uba'achrona, and at the end, uomer ve'ata Eloheinu modim anachnu lach. And now, God, we thank or acknowledge you. So there's a sort of placement of our bracha, ba'achrona, at the end, in which we are finishing with that thanks, with that acknowledgement that comes at the end. Okay, so again, the modim as the final prayer. One other connection between the beginning and the end of the Amidah, we learn in Masechet Brachot about kavanah. How much kavanah are you supposed to have for the Amidah? And the answer is, Amid Palel, the one who prays the Amidah, tzarich sheyichaven et libo bekulan. You have to have kavanah in your heart for all of the brachot. But in a practical move, but if you can't actually have kavanah for all of them, you should at least have kavanah for one of the blessings. Now we have to identify which of the blessings you are the ones in which you should have kavanah as a minimum standard. Amar of Safra, Mishum Chad Rebbe, Ve'avot. So which is the one? So we have this tradition from the school of Rebbe that it is avot, that is the first bracha. And that's the way the Talmud reads. But there are some medieval authorities that have another text of the Talmud that has a disagreement here. And says Rav Safra Mishum Rabbi Ami, but quoting a teaching of Rabbi Ami, it's avot. And then that's contrasted to Rav Chisda, but Rav Chisda apparently has a different tradition. The Amar Hoda'ah. The one bracha that you have to have kavanah for as a minimum standard is Hoda'ah, is modim. Okay, so that's another possibility, is that Modim and Avot are mirror images of each other, and Modim is just like Avot, at least in one opinion, the one that you have to have kavanah for. I brought an incredible comment here, which was from an Achron, from a later authority, who says that Avot is the beginning of the first three blessings. That makes sense. It's the first one in order, in which you need to order one's praise before asking one need. That's the Shevach that you do. And then he says, Umodim itchilat shalosh achronot. And Modim is the beginning of the last three brachot, even though we know it's the second of the last three. We just spent last week looking at Ritzei, which is the first of the last three. So there's something sort of essential about Modim that even like allows us to turn a blind eye to the structure of the Amidah that has apparently a bracha before it and a bracha after it. This is the essential bracha of the end. And in that way, it's going to be sort of super important to understand what are we doing in this culminating bracha as we head to the end of the Amidah.